Afternoon, everyone. Trader Tim from eMoneyMind doing a Monday market analysis video. We are ever so close to those all-time highs here in the ES, and in today's video, we'll talk a little bit about where we could go from here, some intraday trade setups, as well as kind of today's price action and how that kind of sets us up for the week. So, on the weekly chart here of the ES, you can see last week kind of had this doji topping tail hammer, not really a full hammer, but topping tail candle that formed, and following 2 weeks of opposing tails. And so we've got bulls and bears up here that are kind of fighting each other, and we can take a look at the market profile and see that pretty clearly as well. If we go down to a daily chart, we have a pullback to, the area around the next 50% retracement long. It's just from the recent low to high. You can see I've got the bigger low to high drawn up here. I would typically draw all the way to the next high, but I've left this up here just for the reason that we didn't make the full pullback here to the 50%, but then we also didn't break highs and go to the negative 23% target. So I'm just kind of using this 27.7150 as a reminder of where we came. So even though, yes, we've been a little bit bearish in this gap down from Friday, and in today's bearish engulfing pattern, I still want to remind myself that we are, in a very strong uptrend that did not pull back all the way to its 50%. So there's no need to get overly excited to the downside and in the bearish sense until we break this swing low. This would be the previous the most recent swing low, that major swing low that we have. And it's at 27.95. So, talking about today, bearish engulfing pattern. We opened up pretty flat, moved higher, moved lower, and then closed right at about yesterday's lows. So tomorrow, if we break today's lows, then we should be able to move down to this 27.95 pretty quickly, because we have a break of the 61.8, and it would appear that we're not going to be making all-time highs. Now, that's how it might appear. It doesn't mean that we won't in the next couple of weeks. You've heard me talk about August being kind of a strange month, so just be cautious of that. And then within today's context, if I go down to like a 30-minute chart, we can see from highs down to lows had a retracement middle of the day, and that is unfilled, but its target is below the 61.8. So we'll see what happens in the overnight and tomorrow morning as we come into the day. A couple things I want to talk about. This morning you can see the first 30-minute range I've got marked here, the high and the low. We moved above it slightly, but then came right back down into it. The market, we were in this uptrend pre-market, and then we continued that trend for about the first hour of the day, and then moved into this pretty solid downtrend. And as we did that, just drawing up the same short that I have on the left chart, the daily or the 30-minute chart, I'll draw up that same short here on the 512 tick chart, and then as we zoom in, we can see on this bounce that we had here, this bounce took us up into the short, and as soon as we broke the swing low, the prior swing low, set up in a nice short from highs to lows right at 31s, and that got a little bit of a follow through, but we kind of ran out of room at the end of the day. So when you're looking at a larger time frame intraday, I always like to then come to the 512 as a way to get into the trade, entering on the smaller time frame. Another thing I wanted to talk about is conversating with the trader today. We had a situation before the bounce where we were moving down in shorts. So high low, traded at the short, and then rolled over. And so the question is, how do you know when the downtrend is over and then we're going into an uptrend? If we come back one prior, high down to low, we traded right at the short, moved down. We kind of had this little triple test and then moved up into the next short. And so a couple of things. I'm always looking to trade whichever setup trades first. So in this case, had I drawn a long right here as well, well, we first traded at the short, and then we came down and traded at the long and then broke through it. But as long as you're going with whichever trades first, meaning the short traded, then you have to pass on that long. The other concept that is a little bit more advanced, but when I'm looking at swing highs and swing lows, I try and note, do they occur on the leg down or do they occur on the leg up? So this swing high back here started, this is the swing high, and then we start moving down. These two highs are in the context of the market that is moving up. So when I'm looking for a trend change, at this point, we're in a downtrend. We're in a very clear downtrend. I'll get rid of these retracements. At this point, we're in a very clear downtrend. The signal that we've broken the downtrend and we're starting to change trend would come when one of these swing highs that started the trend, so we made this swing high and then down from there, made a high and then down from that high, made a high, down from that high. When one of these highs break, this high over here did not break this high to the left. And so as we continue on, that gives the short here more weight. And so I'm not looking to kind of pick along at the bottom here because there's really not been a signal that we are changing trend. Now as we continue to move forward, this swing high or this swing high, these two get taken out when we move above them over here. And that really signifies that this is a substantial low and a trend change. So then we can take from that low to high and look for a long off of that. In this case, 28, 25, 50 or 28, 25 and a quarter, right around here, looking for a long setup because we've taken out these prior swing highs. So sometimes there's just small little nuances, but the more you focus in on one market and one time frame, the easier it is to pick up on them and be able to identify things that are changing or things that might be standing out. And then you become a much more efficient trader as opposed to bouncing around from different market to different market. So as we head into the next couple of days, tomorrow there's nothing really on the economic calendar, Red Book, and that's really about it. Wednesday, Thursday, some news, jobless claims, and the usual economic announcements, and then Friday, consumer sentiment, which can be an interesting number. But from a technical perspective, we've got a pretty clear high at 64s or 63.75s and a pretty clear low at 27.95s. So those are kind of the two breaking points. And then if we come down even smaller than that, a break above today's high or today's low should send the markets tomorrow in a little bit more of a momentum push. Because think about it. If we break highs, well, we've got, a 44 up to a 52, about 7 points to come up and close this gap. 7, 8 points. If we break down, we haven't really traded much back here on this move up. We came down, moved sideways for a couple days, and then went straight up. So if we move down below today's low, then tomorrow we should see a move, down maybe towards the 2800 level, like that big round number. And so that's again, moving to the downside. We've got 15, 20 points of room to work with without a ton of resistance. Now that being said, if kind of scenario 3, if some of these highs from back here where we were knocking our head on 2800, if those highs are going to hold up, well then, the market tomorrow, maybe it makes a slight dip below lows by a couple of ticks and then we start moving higher, then I'd be watching for us to move up into new highs pretty quickly. So it's going to kind of depend how the market trades at lows. If we break lows and you immediately see us diving off a cliff, then I'll be looking for the market to come down to the 2800 level. If we break lows but then immediately it gets bought and pushed back up, then I'd definitely be looking for a long down at lows and trying to ride that thing, as long as I can up to highs and beyond. So some good opportunities that may or may not present themselves this week, but just stay on the cautious end of the stick, as August, like I said, can be a little bit screwy. So I hope you have a great week of trading. Tomorrow morning we'll be doing the live trading session. You can check that out, eminimind.com/VIP. Thanks and have a good one.